He was hired to milk alien girls, but they started craving more than his touch. She was all wires, until he made her spark. It started with a distress call. A broken-down Xanthari cruiser, stuck in orbit over a burning binary sun, its systems fried and its crew helpless. Earth's Fleet Tech Command dispatched their best man, Captain Jack Thorne, 6'5" of steel and sinew, a war hero turned engineer with hands as skilled on a wrench as they were on a woman's hips. Jack didn't care much for politics, but when a ship was broken, he fixed it. That was his code. Simple, honest work. What he didn't expect was her. Commander Virelia stood waiting in the docking bay. She was tall, statuesque, with deep blue skin that shimmered like starlight and silver eyes that watched him with calm authority. Her figure was sleek, her voice smooth and even colder than the ship's frozen coolant lines. Jack couldn't decide if she was looking through him or into him. Either way, something about her made his pulse tick faster than any countdown clock. She raised a brow at him. "Human, you are the repair officer?" Jack gave a lopsided grin. "Captain Jack Thorne, Fleet Tech. You got a warp core that won't behave?" "Among other things," she replied, then turned on her heel, her uniform tight in all the right places. Jack followed. His toolkit weighed heavy in one hand, but it was her that weighed on his mind. The ship was a mess. Fried circuits, blinking panels, overloaded energy cells. He dove into the job with focus, but Virelia stayed close, too close. She asked technical questions, but her eyes lingered on his arms. When he stripped off his jacket to work in a sweat-damp shirt, she tilted her head, fascinated. "You run hot," she said. "Comes with being human," Jack replied with a wink. That made her lips twitch, almost a smile. Almost. They spent hours together in the engine chamber, crawling through cramped service tubes, brushing hands as they worked. Once they got stuck together in a tight hatchway, his chest pressed against her back. She froze. So did he. There was a beat of silence, broken only by her whisper. "Your body, it's unusually firm." Jack chuckled. "Yours isn't exactly soft either." Later, they shared rations in the control bay. Xanthari food was colorless and bland, but she watched curiously as Jack pulled out a protein bar. "Earth males eat that to grow stronger?" she asked. He took a bite. "Nah, I'm already strong. This just keeps me from getting cranky." She reached over, touched the bar, then his arm. "How strong are you, really?" Jack swallowed hard. The room suddenly felt hotter than the sun outside. "Strong enough to lift you," he said, without thinking. Her eyes widened just slightly. "You presume much?" "I fix things," Jack replied, leaning back. "It's what I do." She nodded slowly, and her fingers lingered on his forearm longer than necessary. That night, he was called to her private quarters. Something about a systems glitch in her personal console. But when he arrived, everything looked fine. She stood by the viewing window, the stars outside painting her in silver-blue light. She wore a silk-like robe open at the neck, showing the smooth lines of her collarbone. "There is no malfunction," she said quietly. "I wish to ask you something, privately." Jack set his toolkit down, heart thudding. "Ask away." Her eyes found his, no longer cold. Now, curious, hungry. "Your species bonds through physical intimacy, yes?" He nodded slowly. "That's one way we connect. And it brings satisfaction." Jack took a careful step closer. "More than satisfaction, Commander. It brings something real." Virelia took a breath, then reached for his hand. Her touch was electric. "Would you show me?" Jack didn't answer with words. He stepped forward and cupped her cheek gently, watching her eyes flutter closed at the warmth of his skin. Then he kissed her, soft, slow. She gasped into his mouth, her body tense with unfamiliar feeling, then melted into him. What started as curiosity quickly turned into something deeper. She was cool and smooth, lithe and elegant, but beneath the surface, she trembled with new sensation. Jack's touch was careful, reverent, yet firm. He guided her, holding her close, teaching her not just what it meant to be touched, but to be felt. When it was over, they lay tangled in silk sheets and starlight, her head resting on his chest, his fingers tracing the curve of her spine. "I didn't know it could feel like that," she whispered. Jack kissed her temple. "There's a lot more where that came from." She looked up at him. "I feel changed." He smiled. "You," sparked Vi. "That's what happens when you let the right man in." She chuckled softly, a sound he'd never heard from her before. And Jack knew in that moment this mission wasn't about engines. It never was. It was about a woman who needed more than repairs, and a man who was built for the job. Jack woke to a soft, warm glow filling Virelia's quarters. The binary sun outside lit her skin like polished sapphire. She lay beside him, hair spread like dark silk over the pillow, breathing slow and calm. For someone who always seemed made of steel and protocol, she looked peaceful now. Human, almost. He watched her chest rise and fall. Last night hadn't been just sex. Not to him. And from the way she had clung to him afterward, from the way her breath had hitched and her lips had whispered his name like a question. Maybe not to her either. She stirred, eyes blinking open slowly. "You're still here." Jack smiled. "Didn't feel like leaving. That okay?" She nodded. "It is unexpected but not unwelcome." He sat up, running a hand through his hair. "Last night, that was your first?" "Yes," she admitted. "Centauri reproduction is mechanical, lab-based, sterile. Intimacy between mates was phased out long ago. Touch, passion, they're not considered necessary." He whistled low. "Well, remind me to file a complaint to your ancestors. They seriously missed out." She gave him a strange look, then she laughed. Actually laughed. A soft, awkward, beautiful sound that made Jack's chest ache. "I didn't think humans were truly so different," she said. "But now I understand. You feel everything, deeply. Even your anatomy is more suited for connection." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You mean I'm big?" She turned her face away, the flush spreading down her neck. "I mean, considerably." "Yeah," he chuckled. "Earth guys have a bit more hardware. Perks of evolution, I guess." "I didn't know a body could stretch that much," she murmured. "It didn't hurt. It felt." She trailed off, cheeks glowing. "Right," Jack said, grinning. "Let's just say I didn't come here planning to educate your entire species, but I'll take the job if it's offered." She narrowed her eyes at him, but there was no anger there. Only curiosity and a spark. As they got dressed, the ship's comm system pinged. "Commander Virelia, please report to Central. Deck. Earth envoy has arrived." She stiffened, smoothing her uniform. "That would be your superior, I assume." Jack sighed. "Yeah, they're probably here to check the engine, and maybe check on me." Her lips pressed into a line. "You are not permitted to remain on board during official inspection." "Yeah," he said, pulling on his jacket. "They don't want their mechanics fraternizing with alien royalty, especially not intimately." "You would face punishment?" He shrugged. "Nothing worse than a few years on the edge of space, and a bad paycheck." She turned to him, serious now. "Jack, I don't regret what happened." "Neither do I." She reached up, fingers brushing his jaw. "We're not supposed to feel this, but I want more." "Then you'll get more," he said, kissing her palm. "You got a system that needs rebuilding? I'm your guy." That made her smile. The real kind. They parted quietly. Virelia returned to her duties, Jack to the lower decks. He kept his hands busy repairing the final core regulators, but his mind was stuck on her skin, her laughter, the way she had gasped his name like it meant something. Maybe it did. Later, in the engine bay, the inspection team arrived. One of them, a human, Commander pulled Jack aside. "Heard you've been getting close with the alien commander," he said, voice low. "This isn't a damn dating cruise, Thorne." Jack wiped sweat from his brow and didn't look up. "I fixed the ship, that was the mission." "Fleet tech doesn't pay you to screw around." Jack finally looked him in the eye. "No, but maybe it should." The commander glared but walked off. Jack exhaled. Trouble was brewing, sure, but something bigger was stirring too, not just under the skin, inside the heart. For the first time in a long while, Jack didn't feel like just a man fixing broken things. He felt needed. That night, a message pinged on his console. "Private channel. From Virelia. Come to my quarters. I want to show you something personal." He didn't hesitate. When he entered, the lights were low. She stood by the window again, wearing another robe, but this time her hair was unbound, flowing down her back. She held something in her hand, a glowing orb of blue light. "This is our genetic archive," she said. "My people select partners by compatibility score, but I've reprogrammed mine." Jack stepped closer. "What for?" She reached out, touching the orb to his chest. "For you. For us." His heart thudded hard in his ribs. "You're serious?" "Yes," she said. "I want to feel what humans feel. Real love, real creation. I want a future. With you." He pulled her into his arms, kissed her like the galaxy was ending. Because maybe, just maybe, a new one was about to begin. The moment her lips left his, Jack knew something had shifted. This wasn't just lust anymore. It wasn't even just attraction. Virelia's eyes held something else now. Hunger, yes, but also wonder. Need. A need she hadn't known how to name until she'd tasted him. She sat on the edge of her bed, the soft hum of the ship's systems pulsing in the background. Jack remained standing, shirt half unzipped, eyes locked on her as she spoke. "I've done a full bioscan," she said, breath steady but her voice low. "Your genetic imprint is remarkable, virile, powerful. Your endocrine response alone nearly overloaded the scanner." Jack chuckled. "You scanned me while we were, connecting." "It was purely scientific curiosity," she replied, not meeting his eyes. "Right," Jack said, grinning. Curiosity with a side of heavy breathing. She looked up. "Your anatomy, your size, your endurance. It's beyond anything the Zenthari male genome has maintained. Our own species evolution made our males smaller, weaker. Sperm production is practically ceremonial now. You're still primal." "Primal?" Jack repeated, amused. "Now that's a compliment I'll remember." She rose and walked toward him, slowly, like she was still trying to understand what her body had experienced. She reached out and placed her hand flat against his chest. "I didn't know a single touch could short out thought," she said. "I've never felt like this, open, unshielded." Jack leaned closer. "That's what happens when you let a man in, a real man." Her hand slid down, stopping at his belt. "I want more." Jack swallowed. "You sure?" "Absolutely," she said, her voice a whisper. "I want to learn everything. Your ways, your rhythm, your intensity." Jack's grin faded into something more focused. "More serious than I'll teach you," he said. "But not like before. This time it's not just pleasure, it's connection." And he did, slowly, with care, with passion. He explored her again, this time deeper, fuller. He taught her what Earthmen knew instinctively: where to hold, where to kiss, when to slow down, and when to take command. Virelia responded like a fire igniting inside liquid metal, at first uncertain, then pulsing with heat. When it was over, she clung to him, panting against his chest. Her skin was glowing faintly now, lit from within. "There's something else," she said softly, still catching her breath. Jack raised an eyebrow. "My internal regulators are shifting," she said. "I think you've triggered dormant systems, ancient ones. I may be fertile." Jack blinked. Wait, what? Interbreeding between our species has never occurred, Virelia continued. But your biological aggression, your genetic push, it may have activated my reproductive systems in ways I didn't know were possible. Jack sat down beside her, stunned. Are you saying? I think I can conceive, she said. With you. The room went quiet. Jack stared at her, mind racing. He'd come to fix a busted cruiser. Now he might be the first human to get an alien commander pregnant. Well, he finally said, rubbing the back of his neck. That escalated. She gave a soft laugh and rested her forehead against his. I know this is sudden. You think? He said, eyes wide. I've had breakups that lasted longer than our entire relationship so far. Virelia looked up, worried. Do you regret this? Jack took a breath. No, hell no. I just didn't expect to be this guy. She watched him. What kind of guy? The first human in history to knock up a Xanthari commander, he said. That's gonna make one hell of a mission report. She smiled. A real smile this time, and Jack could swear the air in the room shifted. You'd be proud to raise a hybrid child with me? She asked. Jack looked her dead in the eyes. If they have your brains and my biceps, that kid's gonna rule the damn galaxy. She leaned in and kissed him again, deeper this time. No hesitation, just promise. Then let's not waste time, she whispered. They spent the rest of the night exploring boundaries, emotional, physical, biological. Every touch was a lesson. Every moan, a discovery. And somewhere between her cries and his whispered encouragement, something new was conceived. Not just life, perhaps, but a bond that neither Earth nor Xanthari had seen before. Something human, something more. By morning, the only thing Jack was certain of was that he wasn't going home alone. Not anymore. Virelia was different in the morning, not just in the way she looked, still bare beneath the silky sheets, hair messy from passion, but in the way she moved. Slower, softer, like someone walking through a dream and trying not to wake up. Jack watched her from across the room, already half-dressed, boots in one hand, shirt slung over his shoulder. You okay? He asked. She turned to face him, wrapping the sheet around her. Her silver eyes were unreadable. I am. Not functioning normally. Jack raised a brow. That good, huh? She didn't smile this time. No, I mean it. My body systems, my hormone regulators, neural synapse balance, they're behaving erratically. My readings are off chart. Because of me. She gave a slow nod. Because of us. The connection we made. It wasn't just pleasure. Something changed inside me. On a molecular level. Jack stepped closer. You said your body activated dormant systems, right? Yes. Systems tied to mating, bonding. Ancient ones. Our species phased them out when reproduction became synthetic. But with you. She trailed off, her gaze falling to the floor. You turned back on, Jack finished gently. She looked up. And I don't know what to do. Jack took her hand. We'll figure it out, together. Later that day, Virelia broke protocol. She took Jack to the Xanthari research dome deep inside the ship's science core, a place where no outsider had ever set foot. The walls shimmered with flowing data displays, and rows of biopods pulsed with sterile light. There were no children aboard the cruiser, no families, just cloned embryos growing quietly in tanks. This is our future, Virelia said flatly. Artificial, controlled, cold. Jack looked around. No laughter, no crying, no diapers, no life, she agreed. She led him to a side chamber where a scanning bed and gene sequencer waited. She laid down without a word, adjusted the controls, and gestured for him to come closer. I want you to touch me, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Not for pleasure, for science. Jack blinked. Science gets all the good jobs these days. She didn't smile, but her eyes flashed with anticipation. He touched her, gently, tracing her skin with fingers more familiar now. The sequencer lit up, recording every movement, every breath, every shift in her chemistry. Her body responded instantly, heat blooming across her chest, skin glowing faintly along her collarbones, her breath catching in that same soft way it had the night before. Jack leaned down. "You sure this is just for research?" "I don't know anymore," she whispered. He kissed her again, slow, deep. The machine chirped wildly. Later, Virelia stood staring at the readouts. This level of hormone bonding, oxytocin, dopamine, it's unheard of in Xanthari biology. Your touch reactivates parts of me long thought extinct, and the reproductive markers are strong. "You mean," Jack asked. "There's an 82.7% probability that I've conceived," she said, "and a 100% chance that I want you again." Jack was quiet for a long time. Then he laughed, a big warm belly laugh that echoed through the sterile lab. "What's funny?" she asked. "I've slept with alien royalty, broken centuries of sterile tradition, and possibly fathered the first human Xanthari baby," he said, "and my CO thinks I'm on a standard engine repair shift." Virelia raised an eyebrow. "Will they punish you?" "Only if they find out," he said with a wink. She moved closer again, placing her hand on his chest. "Jack, what we've done, it's illegal on both sides. Forbidden. But I can't stop. I don't want to stop." Jack wrapped his arms around her, pulling her in. "Then we don't. Let the rule books burn." They kissed again. Slow, deep, real. Back in her quarters later that night, she lit a small ceremonial lamp, one used by Xanthari to mark spiritual awakenings. It hadn't been used in over a century. "What's this for?" Jack asked, shirtless and grinning. "I am becoming something new," she whispered. "And so are you." As the flame danced between them, she stepped into his arms once more. Their experiment wasn't just about passion or pleasure anymore. It was about creation, about evolution, about rewriting what it meant to be alive, together, and neither of them was ever going back. It didn't take long for trouble to find them. Fleet Tech Command was watching. So was the Xanthari High Assembly, and neither side liked what they saw. A decorated human engineer and a high-ranking alien commander tangled in sheets, genetics, and feelings they couldn't explain. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a scandal wrapped in sweat and starlight. The message came in the next morning. It was short, sharp, and cold. "Captain Jack Thorne, report to Earth Outpost 17A immediately. Your presence on the Xanthari vessel is no longer authorized. Your assignment is terminated. Await reassignment." Jack stared at the screen, jaw clenched. "Well, that's subtle." Virelia stood behind him, arms crossed, her long robe draping around her like a battle flag. She'd read the message too. "They're afraid," she said flatly. "Of what? Me falling in love with their science experiment? No," she said. "They're afraid I did." There was a knock, no, a slam, on her door. 3 Xanthari security officers stood outside, armor gleaming, pulse lances holstered. "Commander Virelia," the lead officer said. "You are ordered to report to High Command for immediate evaluation. Your DNA scan showed biological contamination, human interference. You are temporarily relieved of duty." Virelia didn't flinch. "And if I refuse? Then we're authorized to remove you by force." Jack stepped between them. "You'll have to get through me first." The officer looked him up and down. "Human, we do not wish harm, but you do not belong here." "She belongs with me," Jack growled. "No," the officer said calmly. "She belongs to the Republic." Virelia's voice cut through the tension. "Not anymore." They turned to her. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "I resign my commission," she said. "Effective immediately." The officers looked stunned. One of them actually gasped. "You can't—" "I have," she snapped. She turned and walked away, head high, spine straight. Jack followed her, fire in his chest. She didn't stop until they were back in the engine bay, the place where it had all started. "I've given them everything," she said, hands clenched at her sides. "Decades of loyalty, of cold, of duty. And now I know what I was missing. He stepped closer. Me? She looked at him with eyes full of fire. Yes, you. The mess, the passion, the stupid, sweaty, illogical chaos of love. Jack pulled her into his arms. They're gonna come for us. I hope they do. But it wasn't the Zenthari who came first. That evening, as they packed what little they could into a private escape pod, Earth Command sent their own message. This one live. Admiral Rowan's face flickered on the screen. Old Greyhard, a face carved from war. Captain Thorne, he said, you've embarrassed us. I've also made history, Jack replied. You're screwing a genetic anomaly. I'm loving a woman, Jack shot back. That used to be the point of all this. You've violated half a dozen interstellar protocols, compromised a diplomatic mission, and maybe saved a dying species, Jack interrupted. She's carrying a child, sir. My child. The first true human Zenthari life form. What exactly are we protecting if we're scared of that? Rowan went quiet. Then he spoke, slower this time. You're off the roster, Thorne. No pension, no backup. You'll be listed MIA as of this moment. Your future is no longer Earth's concern. Jack nodded. Then I guess Earth isn't mine either. The screen went dark. Virelia came up behind him, resting a hand on his back. You gave up everything. So did you, he said softly. I didn't lose it, she whispered. I traded it for something better. The escape pod was small, but fast, capable of light jump. Jack strapped in, Virelia beside him, her hand resting gently on her belly now, where new life quietly formed against the odds. As the ship's engines roared to life, she looked over at him. Where do we go? Jack smiled. Anywhere they can't reach us. Somewhere we can build something real. She leaned her head on his shoulder. And if they chase us? Then we make a run for it, he said. Together, their pod shot out into the stars, leaving behind a trail of blue light and broken rules. 2 fugitives, 1 unborn miracle, and a galaxy full of unknowns ahead. But as long as they had each other, the stars didn't seem so cold. The stars blurred, outside the escape pod's view screen, streaks of light dancing across the dark. Jack sat in the pilot's chair, one hand on the controls, the other resting in Virelia's. Her fingers were slender and cool, but the warmth in her grip told him everything. They were far from the Zenthari cruiser now, far from Earth's cold, commands and military orders. No more protocols, no more reports. Just the 2 of them. On the run, yes, but also for the first time truly free. Virelia turned to him, a quiet smile playing on her lips. This is the first time I've traveled without a destination. Jack grinned. Same. Kinda thrilling, isn't it? She nodded. And terrifying. I think that's what they call adventure. She squeezed his hand gently. There's something I haven't told you. The scans, they've confirmed it. Jack's grip tightened. The baby? Yes, she whispered. I'm pregnant. It's real. Jack let out a long breath. His heart thudded, heavy and hopeful. You're sure? She nodded. Half human, half Zenthari. A new kind of life. A future neither of our worlds were ready for. Jack stood, crossed the tiny cabin and knelt in front of her. He placed both hands gently over her stomach, eyes wide with awe. You're carrying a piece of both of us. Virelia looked down at him, something soft in her silver gaze. He, or she, will be stronger than either species alone. Not just in body, but in heart. Jack looked up, eyes misting. We made something impossible. We made something true, she said. The escape pod eventually reached a neutral trade outpost, floating quietly in the middle of unclaimed space. It was no palace. Rusted metal walls, recycled air, low lighting, and a strange smell that Jack swore was either cooking grease or alien sweat. But it was a place to lay low. They rented a cramped cabin tucked behind a mechanic's bay, and Jack picked up part-time work fixing jump drives and busted generators. Virelia used her knowledge of xenobiology to help treat wounded travelers and dying crops in hydro farms. No titles, no uniforms, just purpose. And something else bloomed between them. Not just desire, but partnership, comfort, real love. At night, she curled against him, skin warm now, heartbeat slower. He learned how she liked her tea, 1 cube of sap sugar, steeped for exactly 7 minutes. She learned how to cut his hair with surgical precision, even though she'd never used scissors before. He started whistling old earth tunes. She started humming along. They were building something that didn't need approval. One evening, as they ate dinner, roasted rootstocks and spiced nutrient cakes, a message came through the public comms. Channel. Xanthari Assembly declares Commander Virelia a deserter and enemy of the state. All known associates are considered rogue agents. Bounty posted, 10,000 credits, dead or alive. Jack stared at the screen. They're hunting us now. Virelia said nothing. She calmly set down her fork. Let them. Someone's going to recognize us eventually, Jack said. We can't stay here forever. I know, she said, but we don't need forever. Just time. For what? She reached across the table and took his hand. To prepare. Jack frowned. For what, Vi? For the child. Her words were soft, but they struck like thunder. Jack, she said carefully, we're not fugitives. We're founders. He blinked. Founders? We're building something new. Not just a child, not just a home, a life, a way forward, for humans, for Xanthari, for whatever comes next. He stared at her, stunned. You want to raise a family? Out here, in the dark? No, she whispered. In the light. A light we make ourselves. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Jack stood up, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her forehead. Then let's build it. Brick by stardust brick. They sold the pod, bought an old freighter, and spent the next few months fixing it together. It was slow work, but honest. They named it the Second Chance, and when their child was born, a healthy, glowing-skinned girl with Jack's strong jaw and Virelia's luminous eyes, they knew they'd done something that mattered. She wasn't Earth's, she wasn't Xanthari, she was theirs, and somewhere, out in that vast, cold galaxy full of fear and rules and war, there was now one tiny spark of something better. One heartbeat that carried both bloodlines. One child who would someday walk on worlds neither parent could imagine. And maybe, just maybe, teach them all how to love. The freighter drifted silently above a small green moon, unclaimed, untouched, and unbothered by politics. Jack stood on the hull, welding a satellite dish into place, his sleeves rolled up, muscles slick with sweat. Below, inside the ship, Virelia rocked their baby girl in her arms. They named her Aurelia. She was beautiful, skin a soft indigo shimmer, hair like starlight, and eyes. Jack's eyes, bright, alert, and stubborn. She rarely cried, but when she did, her voice seemed to hum at a frequency that made the lights flicker. Xanthari tech couldn't explain it. Human logic couldn't understand it. She was new. I think she's already smarter than us, Jack said one night as Virelia laid Aurelia down in her crib. Custom built from old engine parts, carefully padded and polished. She feels more, Virelia whispered. I see it in the way she watches us. Jack came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. You still regret leaving your ship? Virelia leaned into him. I regret I didn't do it sooner. Life on the Second Chance wasn't easy. Fuel was expensive, repairs were constant. They had to keep moving, changing routes, avoiding anyone who might know their names or faces. But their child smiled. She grew, she laughed, and that made everything worth it. One cycle, while docked at a trading port in the belt of Cirrus, a strange envoy arrived. Not Earth, not Xanthari. A coalition of mixed-race traders and fringe species. Pirates, scholars, farmers, outcasts. They had heard rumors of a human and a Xanthari who had defied two worlds and had a child to prove it. They wanted to see her. Jack was hesitant, Virelia more so, but something in their guest's eyes felt different. Not curiosity, hope. The traders didn't just want to gawk, they wanted to understand, to believe that peace, love, and life could come from something outside the rules. So Jack let them hold her, a grizzled alien trader with moss growing from. His cheeks wept openly when Aurelia reached out and touched his face. A silent female cyborg, missing half her limbs, knelt beside the crib and sang something soft and metallic, like a lullaby from a long-dead language. They left gifts, data scrolls, seeds, a rare mineral to power their engines. And they whispered a new name for her, the Bridge. Jack didn't like it at first. "She's not a symbol," he said. "She's just our kid." Virelia smiled and placed a hand on his heart. "To us, yes. But to them, she's proof. Proof that love is stronger than rules." The whispers spread, slowly but steadily. Other ships began hailing them, privately, carefully, asking for advice. Mixed couples from mining colonies, hidden lovers from rival empires, and even defected scientists curious about biological bonding. Jack and Virelia became something unexpected. Not rebels. Not fugitives. Leaders. They started a small outpost on the moon, built from scrap. Grew food in makeshift greenhouses. Jack taught mechanics. Virelia shared Zenthari healing arts and ancient knowledge long thought useless in her society. And the outpost grew, not just with humans, not just with Zenthari, but with anyone who didn't fit the old molds. Jack fixed ships. Virelia delivered babies. Aurelia, she grew like a wild starflower. And by her second year, she was already speaking 2 languages and could rewire a communications console with her bare hands. One evening, Jack looked out across the outpost from the roof of their new home, tents and cabins glowing in the dusk, people laughing, fires burning gently. Aurelia ran circles around a glowing rock with a pair of furry children from a nearby race. Virelia stood nearby, arms crossed, smiling like a queen. "Not bad for a busted-up mechanic and a runaway commander," Jack muttered. Virelia came up beside him. "We didn't run, Jack. We led." He looked at her, eyes soft. "You miss the stars?" "Every day," she said. "But now, I have better ones." He followed her gaze to Aurelia, bright, fearless, alive. "She's going to change everything, isn't she?" "Yes," Virelia said, "but not alone. We'll raise her strong, compassionate, wise. And one day when she's ready, she'll show the galaxy what it forgot." Jack nodded. "What's that?" "That love," Virelia said, leaning into him, "isn't weakness. It's the upgrade they never saw coming." They stayed there side by side as stars blinked overhead and the moon's soft wind rustled through the solar cloth strung between cabins. And as the galaxy turned, as empires argued and alliances shifted, on one little forgotten moon, 2 lovers held hands while their child laughed into the night. Not a soldier, not a clone, just a girl. And she would change everything.